Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our presentation today. Delighted to be speaking to you. My name's Chris Colley. I'm Medallion's Solutions Principal for our European business and also one of the foundational members of Medallion's Life Sciences practice, which is an area I've been specializing in for the past few years now, particularly in pharmaceuticals. And I'm delighted to be joined today by my colleague, Richard Schwartz. Richard, would you like to say a couple of words by way of introduction?
Sure, Chris. Thank you. And hi, everybody. My name is Richard Schwartz, Solutions Principal for Medallion, focused specifically in the life sciences industry, where I've spent the bulk of my career. Chris, I'm going to hand it back to you to kind of introduce everybody to Medallion, and then I'm going to come back and talk about the state of experience in life sciences.
Perfect. Thank you, Richard. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about us because we want to spend the bulk of the time talking about, well, all of you and your industry. But let me give you a quick overview of Medallion and how it fits in to what we're going to be talking about today. So in a nutshell, Medallion is a software-based customer experience optimization platform powered by AI, by artificial intelligence. And it empowers organizations to deliver extraordinary experiences and to do that in live time. Now, how do we do this? Well, first of all, we help organizations to understand every single customer or employee journey, and we do that by capturing signals. Now, when I say signals, these are signals that come from both experience data, so things like emails or voice or social, even surveys and so on, but also operational data, so from sources like CRM and other systems, as well as observed behavior from things like web visits or events or prescribing patterns and so on. Then the next step is that we anticipate needs and we predict behavior by applying our deep learning technology to detect patterns in all of the data that I've just described and to identify risks and opportunities inherent in those data. And then ultimately we enable organizations to transform experiences by helping them to intervene after, during, and often even before the interaction has occurred, as well as enabling them to make structural changes around aggregate insights derived from that data as well. Now, we do this for over 800 of the world's leading brands, and you can see how our customer community has grown since the time of our founding in 2001, right through to our launch on the New York Stock Exchange last year. But the most interesting thing for me, I think, when I consider our client base, is that it's always consisted of recognized leaders in customer experience. So, you know, the Ritz-Carltons and the Disneys of the world, as well as organizations that are looking to take their first step towards customer centricity. And to my mind, that's often the space that life sciences inhabits, really. As an industry, it's certainly newer to the discipline of customer experience than the likes of hospitality and retail, who've been doing this for years. But ultimately, wherever a client is on that maturity curve, we at Medallion can meet them wherever they are on that journey. And you can see a selection of our life sciences customers on this slide now. But to meet those very different needs that I've just outlined, we work with a broad ecosystem of partners as well. And this is in addition to our own teams of experts, of course, folks like Richard and myself. And each of those partners brings a breadth of experience and capabilities to the work that we do, from strategy consulting, research, implementation, and more. I might just call out a few: our partnerships with Adobe and Salesforce, for instance, and of course Viva being very much the CRM of choice in life sciences, as I'm sure many of you would recognize. And we're very proud to be the first and so far only company in this space to be part of Viva's program. So all that being said, let me hand back to Richard to walk us through the state of the nation.
Great, thank you, Chris. So the state of experience in life sciences, simply our technological abilities have meshed with the rising expectations of patients, professionals, and the talent, all of you, that runs our businesses. Experience expectations have risen, and the price of entry is that you know me, you show me, you make it exceptionally easy for me across all channels. If we look at what the return on experience is, whether it's implicit or whether it's implied, life sciences companies exist in an outcomes economy today. Medicine alone is not going to suffice, and experiences, as we know, are directly linked to clinical impact. When a patient has a good and easy experience, when a doctor has a good experience, and when those experiences collide, it helps with the clinical impact. And experiences that enable and enhance outcomes support the logistical, personal, and the clinical needs of our customers, and those are this economy's vital signs. We know that in digital in life sciences, just for the past 3 years, we've seen the emergence of the chief digital officer. And there's been some successes and there's been some confusion. But now what we realize is we must differentiate through translating deep customer insights into solution design that helps patients and providers simplify their journey and improve those outcomes. This piece of Gartner research that came out last year talked about nearly 90% of organizations now have chief experience or chief customer officers. What are the equivalents in life sciences? And what are we seeing in terms of the emergence of chief patient and chief experience officers in life sciences? It's an important thing to think about as we move forward. And also, we look at moving from earnings calls. In this piece of data from CB Insights, we see that across industry, customer experience is increasingly on every executive's mind, and they're talking about it in critical meetings. And I love to go into Google and type in a few words to see what gets auto-populated. So I did that with customer experience. And in this court of public opinion, we see that people that are thinking about customer experience are thinking about it as the future of marketing, as a new battlefield, as a new brand, and king and key. If we look at competing on experience, one of the things we have to understand is an important piece of data that's come out of Salesforce is the customer's expectations and the customer's realities are not quite where we want them to be. And we need to normalize that or even exceed their expectations. On the other side of that coin, there's this piece of data that had come out from Pega on the good and the bad and the ugly of customer service. And this also needs to be normalized because what this data showed is that executives also often have an inflated view of what their customer service and customer experiences are over what customers' realities are. This research from McKinsey came out in August of 2020. If you've not looked at it, it's a great piece of research that talks about the 10 battlegrounds for digital analytics in life sciences. And what we at Medallion loved about it is one of those battlegrounds is experience. And so the precise and real-time customer and patient engagement to deliver personalized content. If we look over on the right-hand side of this, what we see is that industry's ready. Industry desires this. Industry is technically ready. Industry understands they need to do it. And right now, where we stand is the headroom for innovation is pretty expansive. And we think we address a lot of that innovation that needs to happen in order for life sciences to gain that return on experience. Because where we've typically been, life sciences has looked at the patient and the professional customer in terms of adoption and retention, really, really important business metrics, right? Getting somebody on drug 1 month sooner and retention and all the services we provide, keeping them on drug 1 month longer. But today, leaders are looking more deeply at the end-to-end experience in the context of a customer's broader world. Accenture had launched a piece of research recently on digital health technology. So digital health, all the engagements and all the accoutrements that we have to digitally enhance somebody's experiences and outcomes. But the thing that they pulled out that we were really interested in as the number one trend was putting the eye back in experience. That is, that people want to feel as if an organization recognizes them and notices them. And so gone are the days of mass services and black box personalization, kind of moving from DTC to DTME. And then there's another important aspect to look at that we'll get into a bit, and that's all of you, right? What is the employee experience? Because there's a flywheel in the return on experience when that customer and that employee interact, not just directly rep to doctor, but also digitally what you all are doing in your jobs. And this piece of data from World Economic Forum on shaping people's strategies in the fourth industrial revolution pretty much says what got us here won't get us there. That the mechanisms of yesterday in terms of quarterly surveys are not going to cut it. We need real-time engagement and real-time experience so that you all can optimize your roles to help the customers. Chris, I'm going to hand it back to you, and I'll be here in the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Richard. So I want to give you a flavor of how this could actually work. And as you've probably gathered from Richard's overview, there's a lot that we could talk about, the employee experience, digital, and so on. I'd like to highlight the notion of a closed loop program, because very often that is the beating heart of any truly successful, mature customer experience management program. And really closing the loop means acting on feedback and communicating back to the customer. So it operates on a couple of different levels, as you can imagine. First, there's the notion of the inner loop. That's the blue arrows that you can see on your screen now. Essentially, an employee receives some data that they are designated as being the accountable person to act on. And that data could come from an email or voice feedback or a survey or whatever it may be. But the point is the employee should then close that issue with the customer, performing a bit of simple root cause analysis so they can diagnose the problem and then take action such as is possible within their remit in the organization. Now, this follow-up could be a phone call, but actually organizations should experiment to find the right approach for them. And very often in life sciences, what this looks like is the rep integrating those root cause learnings into their next sales meeting with the healthcare provider. This is something that, for instance, one of our life sciences customers, Janssen, have been doing recently, closing the loop with HCPs in the context of feedback regarding COVID-19. But then there's also the outer loop piece as well. Many of the issues that are identified through root cause analysis will probably require a bit of cross-functional teaming to be able to resolve effectively. So there need to be mechanisms in place to aggregate up root cause insights from the front line, as well as enabling insights teams to mine the data for rich insights themselves, so that you can prioritize and implement strategic structural improvements to the business. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read every word on this slide, but the point is just to highlight that as well as driving better customer perception metrics, such as the 23-point higher net promoter score that companies tend to report when they close the loop that you can see on this slide. In addition to that, closing the loop is associated with a whole range of benefits, from reduced churn and lower cost to serve, as well as greater employee engagement and so on. And just to illustrate that point, I'm going to close with a quick customer study for you. This is a client case study that comes from a healthcare organization that partnered with Medallion to help them collect real-time patient feedback so they could identify trends, assess issues within their patient community, and take action much faster than they were able to do previously with their more market research-based approach. And what's unique about the partnership we've built there is that we worked with the client to create a critical situation alerts system, where any patient providing feedback that describes symptoms of, for instance, suicidal thoughts or mentions of self-harm or any mentions of any behaviors that could put the patient at risk, that would trigger an alert. And the Medallion platform would notify a local task force who were specialized in mitigating those issues, and they respond to the patient within 2 hours. That's really closing the loop in action. To me, that truly demonstrates the ability of experience as a discipline to be something truly transformational in the way an organization interacts with its customers, be they HCPs, patients, or institutional customers. So we've covered a lot of ground at some pace. If there's anything you take away from this presentation, I think Rich and I would advocate that it's these 3 things. First of all, the customer-centric disruption of your industry is here and now. This is not just something that happens in retail and hospitality. It matters in your industry. And the time is right to start acting. Secondly, this doesn't have to be big and scary. Pick a problem that you want to solve, be it closing the loop with HCPs or patients or digital, identify wherever the strongest potential for return on investment is, and prove the model there. And finally, taking action is key, right? This is not about anonymous market research. Those days are gone. You want to start capturing and hearing the unfiltered voice of your customers and responding directly to their problems today. So don't let nervousness around adverse events put you off. Technology can help with that and is already helping with that. Start capturing and acting on experience signals now. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and Rich and I will be here to answer any questions that you might have.